Mike Radich here, and I'm now joined on the phone by actor and martial artist Michael Jai White. Michael, how are you?
I'm fine, and yourself?
I'm doing good. Thanks for asking. Michael, coming up on June 7th, your new movie, Never Back Down 3, No Surrender, will be released. Now, in this movie, you once again will be playing the role of Case Walker, the character you played in Never Back Down 2. In addition to reprising your role as Case Walker, you also directed this movie, just like you directed Never Back Down 2. So I'm interested in knowing, because you didn't direct the first Never Back Down, and you didn't star in the first Never Back Down, but since then you've directed and starred in both movies. So how did you take over the Never Back Down franchise? How did that all come together?
Well, I mean, the first one was a larger budgeted movie, and it was aimed at a teen audience. And so the second movie was going to be streamlined more so for adult content. And then the third one is even more so. So with the success of the second one, the proceeds really showed to be profitable. And so then they wanted to kind of go with the Case character for the third installment. The Case character that I created was a supporting character in the second one, but it turned out that it was the character that people responded to the most, because, again, it was not so much of a teen audience. It was more of a knowledgeable MMA audience that it was geared for. So, it was a surprise. I really didn't know the character would resonate that well, but it did. So the studio wanted to go with the story of, follow Case as the lead in the third one.
At the end of Never Back Down 2, your character, Case Walker, reveals to Big John McCarthy in a phone conversation that he will be returning to mixed martial arts. Now, I've seen the trailer, and I know a lot of people who are listening right now have seen the trailer, but can you give us a basic plot summary to what this movie's about?
Well, it's about Case's journey back into the world of MMA. Learned a lot about the competition. Learned a lot about the political nature of things. And it's not just as cut and dry as you think, where you could just be a good fighter and you're going to be offered fights. You kind of have to know the business a bit. And that's where, when he runs into an old friend of his, played by Josh Barnett, who is a current heavyweight champion. Josh Barnett kind of brings him under his wing and teaches him in exchange for Case helping to train Josh Barnett for a big fight that he has. Being that Josh can trust Case because Case is just a staunch martial artist, and he's one of the most honest people that Josh's character knows. And so, so it's that journey into the world of mixed martial arts, and Case trying to get back into the competition.
This movie was filmed in Thailand, and your wife is co-starring in this movie with you. This is the first time you and her are starring in a movie together. So the movie was made in Thailand, and you got married in Thailand. So I'm just curious, did you get married while you were making this movie?
Well, technically, the ceremony was after the movie, but I was married before the movie. In the United States, you have to be legally married. You can't just kind of get married in another country and be recognized as the marriage be recognized in the States. Mm-hmm. So we had done that quite a while earlier, but we did our ceremony in Thailand, which was a week after the movie wrapped.
I've seen pictures from the wedding ceremony that you had that took place in Thailand, and it looked like a very beautiful wedding. From the pictures I've seen, it looked like a really fun time. So I'm interested in knowing, was this always the plan? Was the plan always to get married in Thailand, or was it something that just came to you while you were there during the making of your movie? Was this always the plan?
It was a plan that came late. I really hadn't planned it out till recently, till my wife actually landed the role of the love interest, which turned out to be great because studio heads who chose her didn't know she was my wife, and so that made it even more sweet that they acknowledged her before knowing the connection between she and I. And so when it was, really revealed that she was going to be out there and I was going to be out there, that's when the opportunity of having a Thai ceremony came about. And so that's when we started making plans to stay out there and get the rest of the family to fly out, family and friends, so we'd have a ceremony.
Thailand is very near and dear to your heart. That country obviously is special to you because you got married in that country. What is it about Thailand that makes it so special to you?
I have really great friends there, and it's just an enchanting place. It's so peaceful, and the people are just so beautiful, and it's very zen there. And my wife and I really feel like a second home there. We've been there at least 4 or 5 times in the last 2 or 3 years. So, and we're going to be going back in another couple of months.
Like you mentioned earlier, Josh Barnett is playing a very important role in this movie. And Josh Barnett is a world-class fighter. He's a former UFC heavyweight champion. He's the former openweight king of Pancrase. He's a very smart guy. He's a very funny guy. He's a really good actor. And on top of all that, he's a great pro wrestler. And for a movie like this where there's a lot of fight scenes, you have to be able to not only learn the fight choreography, but you also have to know how to make it look real. And in pro wrestling, that's all he's ever done. He learns the choreography, and then when the match rolls around, he goes into the ring and makes it look believable. He's been doing pro wrestling for all these years, so Josh Barnett is a perfect choice to be put in this movie. Why exactly did you decide to cast the War Master in this movie?
Yeah, all of the above. He transcends his sport. He transcends MMA and everything. To me, he's one of the smartest people in or out of fighting that I know. And to my knowledge, I think he is the most decorated heavyweight in all of MMA. I don't know a heavyweight that's got more accolades than Josh Barnett.
Sure.
So as far as the legitimacy of fighter, and plus he's a guy who I have a lot of respect for and I've trained with, and so him playing my friend is less of a job, less of a task for me because he is a friend, and our relationship, I think, comes through. The truth of it comes through in our performances, and I can't think of anybody else I could have chosen who would have been better than Josh Barnett. Plain and simple, I would have been in trouble if he was not available.
In the last movie, Never Back Down 2, you had a lot of MMA fighters and MMA personalities in the movie. You had Lyoto Machida, Todd Duffy, Dustin Poirier, Eve Edwards, Eddie Bravo, Wes Shivers, and obviously Big John McCarthy, who we were talking about a little bit earlier. Now, in this movie, Never Back Down 3, what MMA fighters and MMA personalities are in this movie outside of, obviously, Josh Barnett and Steven Quadros? Besides those guys, what other MMA people are in this movie?
Well, there's not as many decorated MMA fighters, but there's not really room for that many this movie because it's really following it's not like a huge tournament like the other movie was.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Sure.
So this is basically focusing in on the Josh Case character and a few other fighters. There's also Nathan Jones, who's like a monolith. This guy, like 7'3", close to 400 pounds, who plays like a Brazilian like wrecking machine that I have to go against. So I mean, you've seen Nathan Jones and the Mad Max movie, and Troy, those type of things. But he's an amazing athlete. Even at like 7 feet tall, the guy does splits. He kicks. He's got MMA technique. He's kind of a freak of nature. And for me, it was a luxury to be able to fight with guys who are bigger than me. Since in the majority of my films, it's hard to find heavyweights who really have technique, that or look like, kind of that they'd be very formidable for me to fight.
Right. Start to finish, how long did it take to make this movie?
18 days. It was a very hard 18 days, but I did a lot of prep work before shooting. It was a little hard because I had to do, as the lead character, I had to do fight scenes that were, of course, very hard. Yet at the completion of these fight scenes, I then would have to direct the rest of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure if I would do something like this on an 18-day schedule again, because it was tremendously hard. And even though Josh was training for a fight after the movie, so he continued to train, while he was there, and he was dropping weight for the fight. When we had our fight team together, we were both wasted like you would not believe. One of the producers had to wrap us in like towels that were soaked in ice water just to bring our body temperatures down, because we had to fight on a day that was 115 degrees, and it was 115 degrees outside, but we were inside without air conditioning and under hot lights. So Lord knows what heat we were actually dealing with, but it was one of the toughest fight scenes I've ever had to do, and Josh as well.
What kind of release is Never Back Down 3 going to be getting? Is it going to be shown in theaters, or is it just going to be a straight-to DVD and Blu-ray release?
Mainly it's going to be a DVD and DirecTV release, but there will be some theatrical showings of it. I don't know how many, but I know in different countries there'll be theatrical showings of it. A few places here as well in the United States.
We all know you're a fan of mixed martial arts, but give us an idea of how big of a fan you are. Are you someone who watches everything that's on TV? Are you someone who watches UFC, Bellator, World Series of Fighting? Do you watch just the UFC? Do you watch just UFC pay-per-views? Do you watch just the big fights? Or do you watch just your friends? Obviously, you're close to a lot of guys who fight. So give us an idea. How big of a fan are you of this sport?
I watch all of the UFC events. I watch all of Bellator, pretty much most of World Series of Fighting, the tough contests, and UFC. And I'm a big fight fan, and I train with a lot of guys from UFC and MMA. In fact, 2 days ago, Tyron Woodley and Rashad Evans were here at my house. We were watching the Canelo Khan fight, and anytime we get together, we start trading techniques. So I'm a total nerd when it comes to martial arts and technique.
Who are some of your favorite fighters to watch?
Definitely Conor McGregor, for several reasons. Conor's technique is very much what, it's like he's kind of a model for a lot of technique that I've been arguing about with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And also Wonderboy Thompson, which is, they kind of fight in a style similar to mine, and a style that I love to watch, being that I've always wanted to see those techniques represented. So they're my favorite to watch right now. But Conor is a favorite because of just who he is. He's just, to me, he's a hell of a character. He's like, I feel like MMA needed a Muhammad Ali, and that's Conor. I just hope he doesn't keep fighting outside of his weight class, because I don't want to see him get ruined.
Have any mixed martial arts promotions, whether they're some of the big ones or some of the small ones, regardless of how big the organization is, have any organizations offered you a fight?
No, I've got none. I'd always thought that someone might challenge me or something,
right,
but it's never happened.
Really?
I get my fix because out of training with champions that I find interesting. I enjoy it on a pure level. I love to go to people's gyms and do where they're at their best, and train and spar with them there, because that's when it's about the competition,
mm-hmm,
it's about seeing somebody at their best.
I'm surprised that Bellator hasn't offered you a fight, because right now Bellator is putting on a lot of, let's just call them fun fights, and you fighting for Bellator would be fun. I'm surprised that Bellator hasn't come to you and said, hey Michael, how about you fight Kimbo Slice for real this time? Last time you guys fought, it was in a movie. How about you come and fight Kimbo Slice in the Bellator cage? I'm surprised they haven't offered you that fight. I'm surprised they haven't offered you a fight against Steven Seagal or Kurt Angle or Jason David Frank or Herschel Walker or Dave Bautista, or let's get really crazy, let's offer you a fight against Dean Cain, because believe it or not, Dean Cain is a really big fan of mixed martial arts. When Bellator has put on shows in Southern California, he's been to a good amount of shows they put on. So how about you fight him, because he was Superman on TV and you were Doomsday in the Justice League cartoon. You voiced that character, the character that kills Superman. How about we do Doomsday versus Superman in the Bellator cage? How about that? I'm surprised that Bellator hasn't offered you any of these fights. Now, of course, I'm kidding when I'm saying some of these guys' names, but still, I'm kind of surprised that Bellator hasn't offered you a fight. So you've never been in contact with them at all about possibly fighting for them?
Well, I mean, most of that wouldn't make sense.
Sure. For fun.
The only person I think it makes sense out of that line is Herschel Walker.
Mm-hmm.
But because a lot of the guys, like Seagal and these guys are not fighters. So yeah. So I mean, it'd have to make sense on that level.
At this point in your life, what's more likely to happen? You fight one boxing match or you fight one MMA fight? What's more likely to happen?
I don't think either of it is likely to happen, because it's really, I don't think it's worth my time at this point. I enjoy training with people like I love fighting, training with people at their dojo, mm-hmm, or their gym. So I get my fix. That's the most important thing for me, because I look at it as a pure science. So to spend that much time to train for a fighter, a specific fighter at this point, would mean me losing a lot of money and time. because, you know, what I make on a film is far beyond what anybody would offer me, any organization would offer me in a fight. Yeah, so, you know, at a point, it's about taking care of your family and your future. So, I mean, I think had UFC come along earlier for me, I mean, there's no doubt I would have jumped into it with both feet.
Michael, you've been doing martial arts for 40 years. How is that even possible? You're only 28. Okay, you're not 28, you're 48, but you look 28. You look great. It looks like you're aging in reverse. How have you been able to do this? Have you found the fountain of youth and you're just not telling us about it? What's your secret? How do you look so good? Is it your lifestyle? Because you're someone who doesn't smoke, doesn't drink, never did drugs, which is surprising because during your teen years, you were a gang leader, and I think you're the only gang leader in the history of the world that didn't do drugs. So you live a very clean lifestyle. Is it that, or is it the martial arts, or is it genetics? How exactly have you been able to stay looking so young and, like I said, aging in reverse? What's your secret?
I think number one is I continue to be the happiest person I know. And I think number two is because I never stopped. One of my biggest mentor in this world is Bill Wallace. Bill Wallace is 69 years old, and he's still faster than everybody I know with his kicks. I don't know a 20-year-old who kicks faster or more efficient than this 69-year-old man. And it's because he never stopped. I do seminars with Bill all the time, and I travel with him. He's like, you know, one of my closest friends. And he was my instructor for years. And, you know, I feel like I follow his kind of regimen. This guy trains every other day. And he's like what you would call the exemplary martial artist. And I believe that has something to do with it, that I've never stopped. I've never stopped training, and I've never stopped learning. And so I think that's you know, kind of, you know, kept me refreshed.
What are you more proud to be a part of? Movies like Never Back Down 3 and Black Dynamite, movies where you're not only the star of the movie, but you're also the director, the writer, the producer. You're the main man, both in front of the camera and behind the camera. You're very involved in the project. Or are you more proud of movies like The Dark Knight, this movie that's a massive blockbuster, everyone loves it, it makes a ton of money, everyone considers it to be the greatest superhero movie ever done? What are you more proud to be a part of? A movie where, yeah, you're not going to make $1 billion, even though I hope that Never Back Down 3 does great business for you. I'm really hoping that it does very well and everyone loves it, and maybe we get a fourth movie out of it. I don't know. I have to see the third movie. Maybe it's not even left open for a fourth movie, but I hope the movie does very well. But just for the sake of the question, are you more proud of something like that where you're very involved in the movie, or are you more proud of the movie that's this instant classic that everyone loves and it's this massive blockbuster like Dark Knight? What are you more proud to be a part of?
Well, it's totally a movie that I've been behind, like the Black Dynamite, that type of movie. That is by far my favorite type of movie to do. That was a movie that came out of my brain that I wrote and starred in, and a lot of people say it's one of the funniest movies they've ever seen, and actually a lot of the top 20 movie lists have Black Dynamite listed, as one of the tops. And there was like the Huffington Post and all these sites compared it to Naked Gun and Airplane. That to me is so much more rewarding than being a part of a large movie where if someone else would have played my role, it would have made a bit of difference, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, I go for the more rewarding things, and I am more a part of, you know, when I'm producing and getting these ideas out. I think I'm living closer to fulfilling my potential than being, you know, kind of one of the tools in the tool chest, you know, mm-hmm. and part of a big movie.
Now, I know you're a very nice guy. I know you're a very humble guy. You're a very respectful guy. And I know in the past you've said that your role in The Dark Knight was not very important. But I gotta tell you, I think you're being a little too hard on yourself, because I think you're talking down your role in that movie. I think you play a bigger part in that movie than you're giving yourself credit for, because when we think of that movie and we think about all the classic scenes and the classic lines from that movie, a lot of the ones that we think about, you're involved in. The part where Heath Ledger, the Joker, the part towards the beginning of the movie where the Joker puts that pencil on the table and says, does anyone want to see a magic trick? Do you want to see how I can make this pencil disappear? There you are. You're in that scene. Then there's your character. You're the one who puts out the bounty for the Joker. 500,000 dead, 1 million alive. You're that guy. And then a little bit later in the movie, you're in another scene that everyone knows about. It's the scene where those two guys bring Joker to you in that body bag, and you think that he's dead and you're ready to pay these guys $500,000, but then there the Joker is, he's alive, and he just used that trick to get into your stronghold. So there you are in the movie being told a line. Everyone knows the line in that movie, Why So Serious? Everyone knows that part, and everyone knows where he tells you to ask him how he got those scars. And you're the first guy he tells that story to. Obviously, he tells different versions of it throughout the movie, but you're the first guy who gets to hear how he got those scars. So you're in a lot of classic, well-known scenes in that movie. And Dark Knight, it's a very important movie. Like I was saying earlier, a lot of people consider it to be the greatest superhero movie ever done. And when people talk about The Dark Knight, they don't say, oh, that's a great comic book movie. They say, no, that's a great film. It's just a movie that it crosses different boundaries, and you don't have to be a comic book fan, you don't have to be a Batman fan to enjoy that movie. There's something in that movie for everyone. And there you are, you're in a lot of well-known scenes with the man. You know, Heath Ledger, he won the Oscar for that performance, and it's weird because he put on this iconic performance and this legendary, once-in-a-lifetime performance that a lot of people didn't know he had in him, because when it was announced that he was playing the Joker, everyone went crazy and said this was the worst idea they ever heard, and yada, yada, yada. And then when we saw the movie, he was great and he blew everyone away. And you're right there with him playing in a key part of the movie that sets up a lot of the stuff for later. So does being a part of that movie, are you proud at all to have played that role in that movie? Does it mean anything to you?
No. Just to simply put, it's something that, because of what I've done or what I give off, my role in The Dark Knight was something used to galvanize how tough the Joker was, mm-hmm. by overcoming someone as tough as Gamble. Okay, so it's my character is essentially a device, because once he's taken down a guy so threatening, then he's shown to be more frightening. I understand the significance of the role, but I mean, like I say, I recognize it as he's a device. a worthy device, you know. But yeah, he's part of the story. If it were not me, it would be someone else. But I can't say that for Black Dynamite because I think if it were not me, the movie wouldn't be done.
Sure, I understand.
So that's the way I look at it.
You're known for beating people up, and you're known for fighting, and you're known as this action star, but really, you're a very funny guy. You've done a lot of comedy during your career, and you have great range as an actor. You can do many different things, and action isn't even the genre that you've worked the most in. You've actually done more comedy, so you're known as one thing, but you can do many different roles. You can play a lot of different characters. So what's your favorite genre to work in?
Well, I really like action comedy. I started out, primarily as a dramatic actor, but I knew what I was getting myself into. And once you do action, people tend to peg you as an action person. I say my influence in this business is someone that I look at whose career I like to follow, if I can. But it's Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford is undoubtedly one of the greatest action actors ever, with Star Wars, the Blade Runner, Indiana Jones, Air Force One, but he's not distinguished with the other action guys like Schwarzenegger or Stallone, only because Harrison Ford's such a good actor. It's almost belittling him to call him an action guy, but he's without a doubt one of the most dominant action people ever because of the movies I mentioned. But I've always wanted to do movies that the acting coexist with the action in a very natural way. Yeah, kind of like not do action movies but feel like if you took the action out of them, they'd still be good movies. So that's really what I try to go by.
During your career, you've done acting, voice acting, producing, directing, writing, both for live action and animation. You've worn many different hats during your career. What area of the industry do you like the best?
Oh boy, I think my favorite part of it is producing. It's hard for me to just do one part of it, but it's weird. There's not many things that I produced that I didn't get involved with in other capacities, but producing is what I'd like to do in the future. I'd like to be able to sit back and create film and television and much more of it.
What character have you played in a movie or on TV that's most like how you are in real life?
There was one character I played. It was on a series called Wonderland, and I played a doctor named Derek Hatcher, who was the head of the ER. So that was the first time I was able to play myself without altering any part of my personality. So I mean, and it's rare that I ever get a chance to do that because usually I'm playing a character that has only one aspect, or they are playing things that like characters. If you look at my work, I get I'm shouted at as these specific characters like Spawn, Tyson, Black Dynamite, Bone, those are the things, or Marcus, with When I Get Married. These people kind of represent one particular thing. Since I'm a very eclectic type of person, I seldom have roles that I can be exactly who I am.
How did you land the role of Al Simmons, a.k.a. Spawn?
Well, I mean, I responded to a meeting, and that's actually all it was to that. And the director and producers they chose me based on that meeting.
What was it like wearing the Spawn makeup?
Well, that was pretty hard. It took about 4 hours to apply the first time, and so we got it down to 2 hours with two people working on the headpiece at the same time. But it was pretty rough, and it's made out of rubber. It was like kind of built on a wetsuit. So once I'm encasing the whole thing, it's extremely hot. And we shot the movie in the middle of the summer. So that was pretty rough.
Would you say it was hell to wear?
Yeah, didn't have to ask.
How many hours a day did you have to wear it?
At least 12 to 14 hours. Well, I mean, there'd be times where, if I'm not on camera, sometimes I get a chance to stick my arm out of it or something.
Mm-hmm.
Got all the Al Simmons stuff in the beginning of the movie, and that was it. The rest of the movie, I was Spawn. 3 days of Al Simmons, and the rest was Spawn.
Can you go to the bathroom? Like, when you're wearing that suit, like, how difficult is it to get on and off?
Well, it takes a few people to get the suit off of me. I have to hang on a bar, and, long enough for someone to pull the suit off of me. That was like the only way we figured out how to do it. I would be zipped out of half of it, and then I'd have to hang on the bar, and then they'd have to pull the rest of the suit off. Thankfully enough, I didn't have to use the bathroom so much because, as gross as it sounds, if you're sweating like crazy, you don't really have to pee.
So you obviously can't be someone who's claustrophobic because you're wrapped up in there. If you were claustrophobic before that movie, you had to have been cured by that experience, right?
That's exactly what happened.
In Spawn, because you're wearing all that prosthetic makeup, and in certain scenes, your face is totally covered because you're wearing the black and white Spawn mask that covers all of your face. In a lot of scenes in that movie, we can't really tell if it's you or not. They could have easily substituted you out for a stuntman, even though you're a great martial artist, you're a great fighter, you could handle all the fight scenes. It would have been very easy to substitute you out for a stuntman, and also because when you're fighting in the movie, when Spawn's fighting the Violator, that's all done with CGI. You did the motion capture for the fighting, so that's you. When we see the computer version of Spawn, that's actually you. You did all the motion capture for the fight scenes. Now, because a lot of it's done with CGI, and a majority of the movie, you're heavily covered up in either makeup or a mask, did you have a stuntman?
That was the plan. I had several stuntmen, but I wound up having to do most of the stunts myself. Because, unfortunately, even though it's a solid plan that I'd be easily doubled once someone is in the costume, they didn't move like I did. I tend not to be bragging, but I don't really move like a guy my size. And if someone else doesn't move that way, it's obvious. I remember the first day we had my stuntman do a run across a 100-foot beam one day. I thought I was done for the day, so the director made me watch playback of the guy, and I watched, a live version of him doing the stunt, running across, and he just did not look athletic, or he didn't move like someone who was supposed to be supernatural. And so there I was up there on a 100-foot beam doing the run. And then that set on a lot of other stuff that I had to do because I created a way of moving for the character that worked.
Spoilers, in the movie, Michael's character, Al Simmons, aka Spawn, in the scene where he's set on fire and then eventually the chemical plant or wherever he's at blows up, and that's how he dies. But behind the scenes, when you're actually making that movie, they really did set you on fire during the filming of that movie. I'm just curious, how long did they set you on fire for, and how many takes did it take to make that scene?
I think I was about on fire for about 3 of them, and it was actually kind of not bad because I was so cold that because they put me in this freezing gel, and when they lit me on fire, I felt a little more comfortable. It wasn't quite as cold.
When you were doing that scene, they covered you in this ice gel. Why exactly did they do that? Is that to keep you cool when they set you on fire? Is that to avoid burns when they set you on fire? Or is that to make the substance that Jessica Priest sprays on you in the movie? What exactly is the purpose of that ice gel that they covered you with?
It protects you from getting burned, but we use it as a device for spraying something flammable on you, like lighter fluid. So we're calling it lighter fluid. In essence, it was something that protects me from being burned.
I really love that movie, and I didn't see it in the theater when it came out because when it came out, I was really young. I don't know how old I was. I don't remember. I might have been like 5 or 4 or something like that. I'm not sure. I don't remember exactly when that movie was released, but I had all the action figures, and the first time I remember seeing that movie was on VHS. I rented it, and it was the director's cut. So it was even more scary, because when you're like 5 or 6 years old, that's a scary movie. At times, Spawn, it can be scary, especially if you're a young kid. So I saw the director's cut of that movie, and I loved it and surprised my parents let me watch it, but that's a different story for a different day. But I really loved that movie, so I had to ask you about it. Another thing I have to ask you about is, why was there never a sequel? Because for years and years and years, we heard rumors that there was going to be a sequel, and the sequel's in the works, or hold tight, we're finalizing a script. Just every kind of rumor that you could possibly hear about a potential movie being made. We've heard them all. It's been, 20 years since that movie came out? It's been a very long time, and we still hear rumors to this day about a potential new Spawn movie. Why exactly was a sequel never made?
Well, I mean, I believe it's because New Line Cinema got purchased, I believe, and outside of that is just speculation. I'm not really sure. It's been talked about for longer than I, would care to mention, but there's always been rumors that they were going to do another one. But I'd only believe that once I see it.
Again, here we are. I've heard rumors that Todd McFarlane is writing a new movie, and he's been in talks with studios about making another movie. I don't know if it's going to be a reboot or a sequel, but if they offer you the chance to play Spawn again, would you do it?
I would have no choice. I mean, I'd owe it to the fan base if I was offered it, So, but in essence, you can write a movie. Anybody can write a Spawn movie, but getting it made is a whole different scenario. And it's just unfortunate. That's just unfortunately the truth of the matter. It has to be a movie company that's going to make it.
In the movie Kill Bill, Volume 2, you had a fight scene with David Carradine that was cut out of the final product. And I know you said in that movie you were okay with that scene being cut because had it been in the movie, because of other things that were changed after that scene, it wouldn't have made a lot of sense. But I'm interested in knowing, in any other movie that you've been a part of, that you've been cut out of, have you ever been angry about ending up on the cutting room floor?
No, because I never looked at movies purely as an actor. I've always looked at things as a director and producer as well. So I completely understand editing choices.
What character have you played in a movie or on TV that you've only played once that you would like to revisit? And this is outside of Black Dynamite, because I know that's probably the role you're going to say, and I know a lot of your fans will say that's the one they want to see you in again. But besides Black Dynamite, what's a character you've played in a movie or on TV that you'd like to revisit?
Bone, from Blood and Bone. I think that would be tied with the character I played in Falcon Rising. Either one of those characters. And that's a shame that I can't think of the character's name. The hell was he? Who did I play in Falcon Rising? Oh, damn. Yeah, my wife told me.
Oh.
John Chapman.
You like it so much you can't remember it.
Yeah. Well, I guess Bone would be the first choice, since I can remember that name.
What's been your most challenging part to play? Some people would say that it's playing Spawn because of the working conditions with you having to wear that heavy prosthetic makeup. Some people would say that it's playing Spawn. Some people would say that it's playing Mike Tyson in Tyson. Some people would say that that's your most challenging role, because usually when you're doing a biopic, you're playing someone who's deceased, and you're playing someone who people are watching that movie and trying to learn their story. Maybe they're a famous person, obviously, but maybe not everyone knows exactly who they are. When you're playing Tyson, you guys are basically the same age. He's a little bit older than you, and he was still very relevant at that time. He was at that time considered the best boxer in the world, or one of the best boxers in the world. I think he was in jail at the time, but anyways, you get my point. Some people would say it's that role because you're being compared literally in real time to who the guy is, and everyone can easily say, because they know him, oh, well, that's not how he talks, that's not how he walks, or he wouldn't do that in this situation. It was a very easily criticized part that you played when you were Tyson. So what do you consider your most challenging role?
It would be Tyson for those reasons. If you get it wrong, everybody knows. Mm-hmm. So that's very challenging. Because everybody knows who he is. I mean, he's one of the most famous people on the planet. So if you're playing one of the most famous people ever, that's challenging by itself.
Everyone has their own definition to what they consider to be their first big break as an actor or an actress. Some people say that their first paid acting job is their big break. Some people say that their first credited role in a movie or a TV show is their big break. Some people say their first recurring role on a TV show is their big break. Some people say that their first starring role on a TV show is their big break. Some people say their first starring role in a movie is their big break. What do you consider to be your first big break as an actor?
Well, it's definitely Tyson, because that was totally an acting role. I mean, even if I wasn't able to do the physical stuff, that would have been doubled. So, I mean, and they were in position to double whoever they cast in that movie. They didn't, they didn't have to double me, but it was 90% an acting role. So that's definitely the thing that put me on the map.
At what point during your acting career did you say to yourself, I made it? And what was the event that made you realize it?
When I get there, I'll let you know.
Oh, come on. Don't be so humble. Don't be a martial artist. Give us something.
No, I mean, honestly,
I know. I'm just teasing you.
Yeah, I honestly feel like I can go a lot further than I am.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
What do you like playing better, the hero or the villain? Because you played both.
I like playing the hero. Not to be, I don't want to sound, arrogant about this, but I think, the best roles are those that kind of encompass who you really are. And I think just my I don't know. I think I'm put on the earth to help people, and that's a characteristic of a hero, I think. So it feels natural for me, in every fiber of my being, to always do the right thing and to live in an exemplary manner that heroes tend to do. So I just think I think in the ethos of traditional heroes. So, I don't know. I just think that it feels more natural to who I am. Without trying to sound like I think I'm a superhero, but I've played one. But I mean, honestly, I was early on I was going to the academy to become a police officer.
Mm-hmm.
And even as an actor, I signed up to be a reserve deputy. And I follow law enforcement. And, I'm from a family that's deep in law enforcement. And I just have not had the opportunity to complete my reserve deputy status. So that, policing and certain things that are, I think, civil servant in nature is just naturally who I am. Outside of even this whole industry. So police roles feel like things I'm destined to do.
When was the last time you sat down and watched a movie or a TV show that you were in just as a fan? When was the last time you sat down and watched something that you made?
I never watched a whole thing. I may watch a scene or something, but man, I just don't do that. I'm very self-critical, so it's not the most comfortable thing for me. So I wouldn't want to put myself through that. When I see things that I'm on, I usually never select them. Or if I'm looking, it may be for other reasons. Maybe like this like I watched a good deal of Never Back Down 2 before starting to write Never Back Down 3. That may be a reason why I watch it. Well, I mean, usually by the time a movie is on television, I have seen that damn thing several times. I've had to be at screenings and what have you. So, I mean, I watch it after I've shot it, and that's the closest time from remembering why I did what I did and watching the results. So, of course, sometimes I'll look at an old movie or a TV show and see mistakes I've made or what have you. But it's kind of you really have a chance. You just really have a chance early on to see it in the first screenings when it's still fresh in your mind. And happily, most of the things I don't cringe about.
Director you've learned the most from?
Uli Edel, who was the director of Tyson. I learned so much from him because he was from Germany and didn't grow up in this country, but he taught me a universal language of filmmaking that stays with me to this day. And no matter what movie I do, it's about that universal language. I want somebody in Istanbul to be able to know what's going on with my character, even if he or she didn't speak the language.
Co-star you've learned the most from?
That would be Martin Sheen doing Spawn. He's singly the most amazing, one of the most amazing people I've ever met. Martin Sheen, even though he's a veteran of the movie industry, knew every name of everyone on set from the valet who parked the car to the guy who dumped the trash. And he took on his role with the exuberance of a new actor. And he's just such an honest person that he continues to be a role model for me as a human being as well as an actor.
I really love your voice. You have a very unique voice. If my life story was made into a movie, I would want you to be the narrator. I'm just a really big fan of your voice, and you've done a lot of voiceover work during your career, but I'm interested in knowing, how many voice acting jobs have you done where you just get to do your voice? Like when Mark Hamill, when he does the Joker, he's doing the Joker voice. That's not actually how Mark Hamill speaks in real life. When you do voice acting jobs, how many have you done where it's been just your voice? Because like I said, it's a very unique voice you have there. So how many voice acting jobs have you done, whether it's in cartoons or video games or stuff like that? How many have you done where they've hired you just to do your voice?
I've only done one voice acting job as my voice, using my voice. And that was almost 15 or 20 years ago. But all the voice acting I've played has been either Black Dynamite or superheroes or villains.
Just a couple more questions, Michael, and I really appreciate you being so generous with your time. Just a couple more here. Mm-hmm. Were you ever offered a part in The Expendables? Because you're tailor-made for a movie like that, and you could beat up all those guys who have been in those movies. Like, it's crazy. I mean, you might have trouble with Couture. You know, he is a MMA champion.
Right.
You just seem like a perfect guy for a movie like that. Were you ever offered anything?
Well, one of my highlights of the year was one of my highlights of last year was when I met Sylvester Stallone and learned that he really considered me as one of the Expendables. But, however, I was working on Why Did I Get Married 2. Mm-hmm. And I was unavailable for the audition. And my agent at the time didn't have the right information. My agent at the time thought that they wanted me to audition for a small role, which I was unavailable for. Mm. Sylvester Stallone let me know that it was not for a small role; it was for one of the lead roles, and they were, he was basically offering the role to me, and I didn't get the right information. But even though, that could be, upsetting, just the fact that one of my big-time heroes, Sylvester Stallone, considered me for a major role, that made my year.
Speaking of Stallone, I always thought that you would have been a perfect person to play Mason Dixon, who Antonio Tarver, the boxer, he played in Rocky Balboa. I was surprised that they went with him and not you. That would have been a perfect role for you. Would that have been something that you're interested in? Because I know a lot of guys have said, like Vin Diesel and a couple other guys have said that they're not really too excited about being in a Rocky movie and being the guy that Rocky has to fight. I think Vin Diesel said that he wouldn't have been too happy with playing that role if he had gotten it. Would that have been something that you would have considered had they offered you?
Yes, without a doubt. Actually, when I saw that movie, I wished I had a chance to go out for it because, even though I have all the respect for Antonio Tarver.
Right. He did a great job, but I could have seen you in that role. When I was watching that movie, I'm like, they should have got Michael Jai White. He would have been perfect. Antonio did a great job, but you were tailor-made for that part.
There's not many roles that I say I wish I played, but I did wish I played that. And honestly, it's funny that you say that because it never came up. I never went out for it, but I did feel that I could have done that role really well. Mm-hmm.
Agreed. Couldn't agree more.
Stallone is probably I think he's a really true boxing fan, and I think he gave the respect to,
Sure.
to a true boxer.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's understandable. In the past, you've appeared in my favorite TV show, Arrow. In that show, you played Bronze Tiger. Will you ever be coming back to Arrow?
I don't know. It's really a question for them. I really loved working for those guys because, I mean, it's not very often that you work for a group of people who are just so good at what they do and so nice when they do it. And it's just, I love Canada, and I really like the guys who run that show. And I feel that Stephen Amell is one of the most hardest working actors I've ever met. And, I think he deserves every bit of the accolades that he receives.
Yeah, I love that show. It's my favorite show that's out right now. I hope they bring you back. I think there's more to explore with your character, so I hope they bring you back. Now, have you ever been offered a part on the MMA TV show called Kingdom? Have you ever been offered a role on that show?
I'm a big fan of, the guy who plays, the oldest brother, Nick Jonas's brother. Mm-hmm. What is that guy's name? The one with the ring tattoos on him?
Jonathan Tucker?
I think so, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I knew it was Jonathan.
Okay, Jonathan Tucker, yep.
That guy is amazing. That guy's one of the best actors on television, in my opinion. He's impossible not to watch.
Your animated TV series, Black Dynamite, that was very popular, but I've heard recently the reason why the show ended was because it was too expensive for Cartoon Network. Is that true? And on top of that, were there any other networks in play that this show could have landed on?
Well, it is true that it became expensive because what happens is the live streaming and that type of stuff is hurt these traditional cartoon networks. Even Cartoon Network only had a few shows that were not 15 minutes. And Black Dynamite was, half hour.
Right.
And it was real top-notch animation. That was, animators were in Korea, and it was a big deal to get these cartoons done. So, I just think it was, it performed well. It continued to perform well, but I don't think it was cost efficient.
What about live action? Will we ever get Black Dynamite 2?
You just might, actually.
It's in the works.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What are you currently working on that we should be looking out for in the future?
Well, of course, there's Never Back Down, No Surrender.
Sure.
Well, there'll be a movie called Cops and Robbers where myself and Rampage Jackson play brothers. And it's with myself, Rampage, and Tom Berenger. So that'll be an action movie coming out later this year. And of course, I'm on OWN television every Friday night on for better or worse in my sitcom.
Michael, last question. I've seen you do, the morning radio, that car wash. I've seen you do daytime TV, and a majority of the time, whenever you're on one of those shows like that, someone has to ask you, could you beat up Bruce Lee? Now, my question is not that, because that's just a ridiculous question, because you're way bigger than he is, and he's not living, so it doesn't really make any sense for us to go down that road. But I'm curious, do you find this humorous, or is this annoying?
Well, one thing about those questions about can one person fight another, it depends on someone who, I guess I have to say it like this. There are people who know martial arts and people who have no clue. Mm-hmm. There's a reality, and then there's the fantasy of martial arts. And there's no way, even with my expertise and my years of knowledge, no way I can educate someone who buys into the fantasy of martial arts, no matter what I say. They're going to believe that Jet Li, Steven Seagal, people like that are legitimate fighters, and which is a kind of a slap in the face to people who have sweat and bled and given their life to the pugilistic parts of martial arts. But then there are people who have devoted their life to traditional martial arts that that deserve all their accolades for being a true martial artist and evolved person, which the martial arts is designed for. So there's these two different worlds that are constantly going on that people just misunderstand, because the martial artist, the great martial artist, is judged as a fighter when he shouldn't be, and the great fighter is judged like he's a martial artist, and he shouldn't be. And it just depends on. It's just these two worlds that never seem to be able to connect in reality. And it's just kind of a weird thing.
Michael, real quick before I let you go, where can people go to follow you on social media? Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, your website. Where can people go to stay up to date with everything you have going on? Where can people go to follow you?
Well, yeah, I have a Facebook page called The Real Michael Jai White, and Twitter. Oh man, Twitter is just just my name, and I believe Instagram is the official Michael Jai on Instagram. I think that's it.
Michael, thank you for taking the time to talk. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.